The X Zone Radio Show is heard on radio broadcast affiliates worldwide, including
AM 580 CFRA in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
WPUL AM 1590 in Daytona Beach, Florida.
KOHI AM 1610 in St. Helens, Oregon.
KHRO AM 1150 in El Paso, Texas. And for more information on becoming a professional broadcast affiliate of the X Zone Radio Show, visit
www.xzbn.net
or call toll-free worldwide
1-800-610-7035.
The X Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
These words to my girl. I know you never even tried, girl. Come on, 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 come on. Please, 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 won't act like I please you. You don't need me to show the way.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And if you've missed any of the shows and you're saying, shoot, I wish I could have listened to that one, there's two very simple ways to do it, but one address, www.xzonepodcast.com. My guest this hour is Deborah Chamberlain, X Zone Nation. She is the author of the recently published book, Orange Picnic, which is a memoir and a love story set in Homewood, Illinois during the 60s. The story revolves around events that took place during her high school years that were both heartwarming and heartbreaking as they unfolded. The memoir received a 5-star rating from Midwest Book Review. Other writing experience includes working as an annual community columnist for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, as well as guest blogger for the newspaper's website. Deborah has also written articles for e-zines and contributed stories to other print outlets. Deborah first gained fame from her 7th grade peers by writing improbable romantic stories, crafting silly chapters about her and her friends unexpectedly meeting the Beatles, with the band members, of course, falling in love and, underage grade school girls from another country, and you know how the story goes. The stories are recalled with a blush, but they were fun at the time. On a professional level, though, Deborah worked in several industries while compiling her master's degree in mass communication, which led her career in advertising, marketing, and public relations. In 1998, Deborah opened up her own media marketing and public relations agency. Now, in this capacity, she was able to raise the profile for several new businesses and was also called upon to be a spokesperson and interviewee. Deborah taught college-level courses in advertising and consumer behavior for several universities and led adult learning classes in marketing. Once again, Deborah Chamberlain is the author of, Do you have your pencils and paper out? Orange Picnic. Now, it's available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. When I come back from this 2-minute commercial break, I'll be joined by our special guest this hour, Deborah Chamberlain, as the X Zone continues around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, Ustream, and XZoneTV.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.
Come on, come on, come on, please, 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 won't you, like I please you. You don't need me to show the way, love. Why do I always have to say, love? Come on, 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 please, 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 won't you, like I please you. I don't wanna sound complaining, but you know there's always rain in my heart, in my heart. I do all the pleasing with you, it's so hard to reason with you. Oh yeah, why do you make me blue? Oh yeah, I'll tell you something I think you'll understand. When I say that something, I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. Oh please, say to me, let me be your man.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I bet you're wondering what's with all the Beatle music. Well, everybody knows that I'm a great Beatle fan. But it has a lot to do with my guest this hour, Deborah Chamberlain. She's the author of Orange Picnic. And Deborah, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Are you wearing your Beatle wig and your Beatle boots?
No, I never went that far. Besides, I'm a girl. I'd look silly.
Listen, I'm from Montreal. You should have seen what they were wearing way back then. I remember my mother took me to see A Hard Day's Night for my 12th or 13th birthday. No, it had to be my 12th. And here I am with a brush cut, wearing shorts, and the new pair of Beatle boots she had just bought me at Eaton's.
How cute was that? I did have go-go boots. I will admit that.
Well,
But
see?
no Beatle boots.
No Beatle boots, eh? Tell me, what's the fascination with the Beatles?
When I was in 7th grade, of course, they were all very popular. And so we would write stories. We're all insecure girls and not very attractive at that time. So I just started writing some stories that would put a friend's name in, a couple of them, and we would accidentally meet the Beatles. And, of course, they'd fall in love with us, and we start dating and all that. And so, I mean, we loved their music, knew every word, danced to it. It was our first introduction to rock and roll. And so that was just it. And it was Paul McCartney. I mean, he was the cute one. And so I'd ask my friend, who do you want? Which one do you want this time? And they'd say, oh, I want George this time. And so I write it that George fell in love with that person. And it was really silly.
So you were a made-to-order romanticist back then.
I suppose so, yes. It's just part of my heart. And yes, heart of my soul. I'm sort of mushy on the inside and hard on the outside. How about that?
So you're a hard-boiled egg, right? No.
Well, you have to be to get along in the world and to put up with some of this stuff. So
Isn't
that's
that
part
the
of
truth?
it.
Yeah, my daughters called me a giant-sized teddy bear. So they know which side their bread is buttered on, I'll tell you. Tell me, who is Michael?
Michael was my first real boyfriend, my first love, my continued love interest, the epitome of what I thought a boyfriend should be. I met him when I was 16, and he was 19. Blonde, tall, never, ever thought he would be interested in me, never dreamed that he even knew that I existed. And we did meet, and it was an incredible meeting and time with him.
How long did you know Michael?
I knew him for about a year. I'd seen him. The way it kind of happened is that my best friend started dating a guy. There was a coffee shop across the street from her parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
And she went there one night with her sister and saw this guy that went to high school with us but was a couple years older than we were. And he was this icon, the bad boy. And one night he came over and started talking to her as she was making googly eyes at him and trying to get his attention. So they started seeing each other, mostly meeting up at the coffee house. And then I noticed this tall blonde guy and really sort of took a shine to him, and was to find out that Michael was John's friend. So here's my best friend dating this guy who was best friends with my boyfriend, eventually, as it all worked out. So it was great because usually when girls started dating somebody, they wouldn't hang around with their girlfriends because they wanted to spend all the time with their boyfriend. But here the four of us could be together and still see each other and have fun and have shared experiences. It was perfect.
So what happened between you and Michael?
Well, the situation is that Michael and I dated for, like I say, about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he got his notice to report for the physical. He was of age and had to sign up for the draft. And so eventually he got his classification and was going to go into the military. That was a choice. And back then you either went in or you could go to Canada,
mm-hmm.
but the chances were you'd never see your family again because they'd arrest you.
Now we're talking about the Vietnam War. We're talking about the early wars where it was you received your notification of draft.
Right, exactly. And so, without spoiling the story, he got his notification for the draft, and fully expected him to go to Canada. And things happened, and I lost him.
How did you lose him?
Well, I wrote it so that you probably wouldn't know, but I will give your listeners a hint that Michael did commit suicide.
How have you coped with that over the years?
It's been extremely difficult. Of course, something like that happening when you're 17
mm-hmm.
Left a huge, unexpected, no one had any idea that would happen. And so when it was happening, I started writing notes about it because I was all alone and my friends didn't know what to say to me. And I've coped through time with being still caring about him, wondering what made him make the decision he did, wondering whether he thought about me, a lot of tears,
right.
Of course. And as time went on, I started putting my book together and trying to explore the different options and what people think and about when they're going through something that's a hideous decision. And so I got involved as a volunteer with suicide survivors events, and also have been enrolled in grief and bereavement classes. Not so much to find an excuse or an explanation, but as much as to understand how someone could be that sad, low, totally without hope. And I think everybody has experienced a very, very low point in their lives. I'm
mm-hmm.
sure, maybe there's a few out there. But to come to that situation where there's no other decision, no other solution, I should say, probably. So that's how I've rather coped with it. The classes that I've been taking, I've run into a researcher that spent practically his entire life looking into suicide and the mentality that leads to things like that. And there's kind of two theories. One is prevention, and either it's medication or counseling. And the other, in this researcher's position, and I sort of agree with him, is if that person is in that much pain and you save them and make them live the life they can't stand, how selfish is that? And so I came to this sort of position of, if you love them, you have to let them go
mm-hmm.
and remember them with the respect and the affection that you have for them, because it's still that person. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's just that they cannot see any other way out of this feeling that there's just nothing, empty, completely empty inside.
Here you are, a 17-year-old girl, and this very traumatic event happens in your life. You've lost the love of your life at this time.
Yes.
How did your parents react, and were they supportive of you?
My parents were always a little wary of Michael because of the age difference and because of the intensity of my feelings for him, of course, your first boyfriend. They were always afraid something was going to happen, even though they were about the same age when they got married as Michael was. So they didn't really get attached to him. And when the events took place, my dad never said a word to me. My mother was not necessarily supportive or comforting, but she was the first one to find out about it. My dad would happen to be out of town working, and so he came home the next night, and we had to sit at the dinner table and pretend that nothing had happened, and I just couldn't do it. It was terrible.
Why did you have to why did you have to pretend nothing had happened when the most catastrophic imaginable thing in your young life had?
My father didn't realize what had happened, and as we were sitting there at the table, I mean, he knew Michael was he was drafted, let's put it that way, going into the service. And at some point he turned to me, and I don't remember what the beginning of the sentence was, but he turned to me and he said, "And there'll be no more Romeo and Juliet crap either." I couldn't believe it. And I got up from the table and left. Yes. But my mother wanted to pretend everything was fine. First of all, it was his birthday. Second of all, he would get really cranky when he was on the road because it was hard. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to tell him after dinner what had happened. But the way that things fell apart, he got to find out pretty quickly. I ran upstairs to my room, and I didn't come down for the rest of the night. I just couldn't face anybody or anything.
Understandably so.
And the real tragedy is 5 months later, Buffy and John, she lost him too. We were both 17 years old.
Now, John was was Michael's best friend, right?
Right.
And Buffy was going out with John. How did John take the loss of his best friend?
I didn't see a lot of John. The way I can remember him is him also being extremely drained and getting more desperately trying to attach himself to Buffy. Her real name was Elizabeth, but we all called her Buffy. Mm-hmm. So he really clung to her, and here she was, young and trying to remove herself from him because it was as if he started going a little crazy, calling her and sort of stalking her and wanting her to stay home if they weren't going out that night. He said he didn't want her going to school functions and things like that. So he got more possessive and more clingy to Buffy, and the more he clung, the more she pulled away. And I had even had conversations with John. We'd go and check on him and make sure that he was all right. And he'd just say, what can I do to get Buffy to go back with me? What can I do? What can I do? And it was really hard because this was the bad boy who wouldn't turn down a fight. He was just, all tough around the outside, but in love on the inside.
Now, when you say Buffy lost John, did John pass away as well?
Yes.
Did he also commit suicide?
Yes.
What was the length of time between you losing Michael and then Buffy losing John?
5 months. 5 months. It was the night that man first walked on the moon. That's the day it happened.
Deborah, you and I have to take a break. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Exonation Deborah Chamberlain is our special guest. The name of her book is Orange Picnic. It's available at Amazon.com and at Barnes & Noble. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. Oh, please say to me, let me be your man. And please say to me, you let me hold your hand. Let me hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. And when I touch you.
You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio,
Euro High Definition Radio,
and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035.
Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com.
And our website,
www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Lead a better life. I need my love to be here, making each day of the year, changing my life with a wave of the hand. Nobody can deny that there's something there, running my hands through her hair, both of us thinking how good it can be. Someone is speaking, but she doesn't know he's there. I want her everywhere.
Deborah Chamberlain is our special guest this hour, Exonation. She is the author of Orange Picnic. It's available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. Deborah, at the beginning of your book, you have a poem that was written to you from Michael, who was very poetic, and as you discussed with me earlier, it wasn't the kind of roses are red, violets are blue. So I was wondering if you'd kindly read the poem that is at the beginning of your book to you from Michael.
I'd be honored. Thank you. Take, I would, a handful of rice and scatter it over the sea. Would but that slight endeavor chance bring you nearer to me. Between us, America's tragedy, a cigarette and a cup of tea. I find solitude quite miserable with only myself with me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell me...
there are other...
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go
I was
ahead.
going to say there are a couple of other of his poems that I've scattered throughout the book. And you mentioned me being a community columnist.
Yes.
I wrote a story around Memorial Day weekend, which is, of course, saluting the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And so this poem was let off my column, and I got to make reference to Michael. And it dawned on me that that was the first time that he had anything of his published. And so I sent a copy to his mom so she would know that her son's work got published.
Because of the impact that not only Michael's death had on you as a 17-year-old girl, but 5 months later, the death of his best friend, John, who was going out with your best friend, Buffy. How did you cope? 17, it's a very young and tender age, your first boyfriend, your first love.
I think it was all such an incredible shock from Michael that I was cold. I was barely getting through high school. I was a senior, and I had just that semester to go. My teachers are very supportive. My principal was very supportive. And then to be going through the problems and issues. And I think the hardest part was being strong for Buffy and also for John. Because John would come over to my house and talk to me, and he was just in such anguish, and he kept asking me, what can you do? And I knew Buffy was not going to go back with him, and I had to, how do I comfort him with his loss when I still wasn't over mine, and the two of them were still alive, so if there were problems that could be worked out, they still had a chance. I didn't have a chance. So I felt like almost parental. And I was the last one to see John alive. When he finally understood, and I said, there's nothing you can do. And he just started sobbing and crying, these deep, gut-wrenching sobs. And I just, we cried together. But again, I never saw it coming for him either. So I imagine part of my being able to get through it was my parents were pretty much away from the house working and whatever. So I was sort of the fill-in mini parent to my brothers and sister, and doing the things he had to do. And my younger sister says that I pretty much raised her. So there were ways that you could remove yourself from whatever had to be done because you had to do it. I'm still not over it. When I was reading the book and writing the book, I can still, if it's balmy outside, like when we used to walk around the neighborhood and stuff, I can get still real very teary. And I just don't know if that's ever going to go away. I don't want it to go away. I want to maintain that emotional connection with him.
How hard was it for you to write your book, Orange Picnic?
Well, the mechanics of it were somewhat of a challenge. People would say after they've read the book, how did you remember all that detail? And I said, first of all, I did write notes about it, but the other part is that I can relive it when I was editing and writing and proofing. If I had to go to work or something, I'd have to set an alarm clock so that I wouldn't just get into the book, because I would just lose track of everything around me. And it's like I'm reliving that all again. And then when I go down to Homewood, it's like I'm reliving it again. So the emotional part of trying to maintain the characters and create dialogue has brought it all back again. And you want to kind of live it so that you can explain what those feelings feel like, and so that your reader can empathize to a degree. Mechanically, it was difficult because there were challenges trying to get what I wanted to do is work in some of the lyrics and music from that time, because, of course, that was very important. It was the year of Woodstock, and a lot of great bands, and the Beatles and Eric Burdon. So it was tracking down permission. I got permission to use some of Bob Dylan's lyrics in the book. And Eric Burdon and the Animals was a song that our senior class adopted in high school. And so I wanted to use those lyrics so people would know. And I think that's the other thing, is the readers identify with the era. There's a little bit of historical perspective of man walking on the moon. And again, we were in Illinois, so it was the Democratic Convention where there were always the riots downtown Chicago. It was pretty awful times. And it's still difficult working with the book and trying to market it, position it, talk about it in a fashion that people don't think I need to, that I haven't gotten over it. That's the other phrase. Why don't you just get over it? You don't get over anything like that. I don't think you ever really do.
Why did you choose the title, Orange Picnic?
One night I went into the coffee shop and Michael had something on the table. And and I looked around. I couldn't see what it was. And I didn't see a package or gift. And then there was a little orange. And I said, why did you bring me an orange? And he said, because you give me oranges of enrichment, which I didn't totally understand, but I didn't want to ruin it. So when it was our 6 weeks of kind of going steady, as we'd say, I bought 6 oranges and met him at the coffee house. And he said, well, we'll have an orange picnic. So we went outside and put our jackets on the ground. There was a little clearing across the street from the coffee house with a tree that had a little homemade swing. And so we sat on the ground and we shared one of the oranges. And then John came over and he said, what are you doing? And Michael said, we're having an orange picnic. And he goes, oh, give me the one from the the mushiest week. And he was just teasing us because he thought it was silly that Michael would be that enamored with the girl. So we gave him an orange. And then years later, when I was talking there are 2 remaining friends from the 4 guys that used to hang around. It was Michael and John and Pete and Joe. Well, I've kept in touch with Pete and Joe all these years. And so we were talking about elements for the book. And they told me that before Michael and I were dating each other, he used to refer to me as the orange-haired chick because I have red hair.
How supportive were your friends, your family, when you decided to write the book?
My parents had passed away, so they weren't really aware that I was writing it. I needed to wait until my daughter was old enough that she would understand about the elements of it and not resent me writing this book about someone who's long ago and not her dad. My friends were mixed. The 2 friends of Michael's, Joe and Pete, were very eager to find out how they would be positioned, especially Joe, because he was best friends with Michael. They went to high school together, and Pete went to high school with John, and the four of them sort of connected through working together and bringing one another to the coffee house. So Joe was very, very curious as to if I would understand Michael, and he found out that I did understand him quite well. My friends, in general, were happy. Buffy, for her, it was a time that she does not want to remember. She just was ready to be over John. He was just such a negative drag on her at that time that and he threatened to kill her. He said, I'll either shoot you or shoot myself, and you can watch. So she's got a very different perspective. However, we are still best friends, and we still get together. We still talk about it. Just recently, her mom passed away, but she was still living in Homewood, and every time Buffy would visit her mom or there was something going on in Homewood, I'll go down there. And both of us agreed. It's like the four of us got together last year at something called Sarge Fest, Pete and Joe and Buffy and I, and it was the first time the four survivors actually talked about this. We said, going to Homewood is like being in high school again. It's like the time never passed.
Why do you think Orange Picnic is a story that has to be told, and what will readers get out of the story?
I hope what readers will get out of the story is a sense of good old-fashioned romance where people took their time and they courted each other, and there were sweet events and gifts that were from the heart instead of purchased or taken for granted, that relationships took time to develop, you were shy with each other, and that a really true love can be at a young age that would last through time. And even though the story is sad, it lets you know that there is romance, and maybe it'll encourage somebody else to think about their first love or boyfriend or whatever in a different fashion, or maybe even will want to emulate some of the things that I experienced that made such an impact on my heart after all these years that I just think it's incredible. It's sad, but it's like Romeo and Juliet. It's still a beautiful love story that makes you warm, and I want them to take away the warmth and just sort of tuck the sadness away.
Do you think that Orange Picnic will be a book that people who have suffered a loss or suffered a suicide in their family will be able to get some sort of counseling through?
I'm not sure with the counseling, but maybe some assistance in having them think about this. When I was going to one of these, I was a panelist on the survivor of suicide, and when people have just suffered this suicide, the thing it's in their head is, what could we have done to prevent it? Why did they do it? Why, over and over? And I think that they think they'll never get over it. They'll never get over the pain, the shock, the hurt of having this person choose not to be with them anymore. Mm-hmm. And I felt that way too. He made a decision not to be with me. I mean, that's normal. That's what it is. But at some point, you're able to look back and say, he was so young, they were so young, or they were so hurting, they thought they were doing the right thing. Whatever the reasons that people suppose or kind of know, that you can take a step back and look at that person again in a different light and say, but the reason this still hurts is because I still care about him. I love him. He made an impression on me that will never go away. And I'm going to focus on that part of it. As much as it makes me sad that I don't have him around, I had him around. I may have never had that kind of experience, and he gave that to me, and it will never go away.
Did you ever get married? And
Yes.
if so, how did your husband and or other boyfriends feel about your very close connection with Michael?
I tried to tell my soon-to-be husband about it, and so that he would understand why I get a little misty on the anniversaries of the dates that happened, and tried to explain that it's in the past, but it's not. But he wasn't really interested, and he never asked me any questions. So I figured either it didn't bother him or he didn't care. Ultimately, the marriage didn't last. And I don't know, I mean, there were other issues in it. I did, of course, we have a daughter, and she understands. She actually found a gentleman in her high school years that was very much like Michael, not because she knew Michael or had any idea, and it was before she even read my first draft of the book, but she found someone who was very similar, and it was like watching myself with this, guy, because he'd do things like bring her flowers out of the blue or arrange little dinners where he'd bring it to her play rehearsal at school so she wouldn't be hungry. Very, very thoughtful little things. I thought, oh my gosh, it's history repeating itself. So I've had guys that know about it, and I've certainly had friends, purchase the book and read it. But I've never had a really in-depth conversation about, for example, a guy who I might start dating, is to say, if you read this book, is it off-putting to know that there's this guy who's really going to be a part of my life all the time, or can that just be a separate relationship that obviously is not going anywhere in the future? It's over in a fashion. Does it bother you that I still care that much, can get emotionally affected by that? And I've never had that conversation.
Stand by. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. Exonation, Deborah Chamberlain is our special guest. She's the author of Orange Picnic. It's available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. Don't go away. We'll be back after this break.
Someone is speaking, but she doesn't know he's there. I want her everywhere, and if she's beside me, I know I need never care. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had to go, I don't know, she wouldn't say. I said something wrong, now I long for yesterday. Yesterday, love was such an easy game.
Deborah Chamberlain is our guest, Exonation. She's the author of Orange Picnic. It's available at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. We were talking before we went to the break about. I asked you about your, if you got married and how your husband or boyfriends feel about the book, and you said, basically that they have to accept that this is part of your life. Has it ever been a block in a relationship for you?
I guess for me personally, getting totally involved with someone.
Well, keeping the memory of of Michael alive as vividly that you do.
I would hope it wouldn't. I think that I can put it in perspective because, again, there's no choice. Mm-hmm. There's no chance that I'm going to be able to actually be with him in a normal relationship. Right. And I'm focused on it now because I am working with the book and editing and all that took so much of my time. And I would hope that he would, whoever it would be, I would pick somebody who would respect the fact that it's a memory in the past, and I'm sure he would have perhaps other girlfriends that meant a lot to him that he didn't choose to break up with her. And it's something that's, again, a part of your life, and maybe it makes you softer, gentler, and more careful about giving your whole heart to somebody and making sure that they're the right person.
What's your next book going to be about?
I am considering doing a book about my daughter. Her name is Rebecca, but I always call it a Becca book because she's becoming the most incredible young woman that I've met. She's a Fulbright scholar. She's studying language in Cairo. She's giving, loving, kind, and she's also very, very funny. So she does some really cute little witticisms that I'd like to put in a book. And that way, too, other people can get to know Becca and laugh, smile, and get some warmth and love from her way of life.
How did she deal with the fact that you wrote a book about John and not a book about her? A book about Michael and not about her father?
She knows better. Sorry. She understands about the relationship. She was old enough to experience some of the challenges that she and her dad had, and her dad and I had, and they continued on. And she has only really recently somewhat reconciled with him. So she understood before she even read the book that her dad had some different personality and different things that were important to him. And so I just think that she can put it in perspective.
All right, you and I have to say so long, Deborah. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing the story behind Orange Picnic. Once again, X Zone Nation, Orange Picnic is available at Amazon.com and at BarnesandNoble.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-800-610-7035 is worldwide toll-free. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And, of course, our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. We'll be back after the news. Don't go away.